All right, we're going to keep things moving here on Box Throw. We're going to say hello to the head football coach at Florida A&M, James Colzie, who is in his first season. As a matter of fact, you look at Florida A&M, 3-2 on the season, another bye week. Been some challenges, of course, for the Rattlers, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But three solid wins on the season, defending HBCU national champs, number one with the coaches in the HBCU Polish. James Colzie joins us here on Box Throw for the very first time, his very first appearance. What's going on, Coach Colzie?
Hey, not a lot, man. Thanks for having me. It's great to be in front of folks because normally when you're talking to someone, that means you're doing some good things. So, but it's great. It's great to be on this morning.
Absolutely. Let me start here. Can you speak to it's sort of, when you talk about SWAC football, sometimes you may have two buys during the course of a season, but for you, it's now your third one or your third time you're not playing. I wouldn't, not necessarily buy, but the third time you're not playing. Really, you've had a situation where I guess you played the first two games, then you played, not played, not played, that type of thing. How challenging is that? You don't have a game again until October 19th against Jackson State.
Well, it hasn't been that challenging for us because it's allowed us to just work on certain things that, after maybe a game or two, you feel you need to address. Obviously, we had after having our first bye week, our first scheduled bye week, right? It allowed us to, it gave us the opportunity to get some of our newer players or some of our newer additions to the football team, just some added film, some added field time, some added, added time with the coaches. Also, we played two really, really tough MEAC schools, and that allowed us to get healthy. Two teams that kind of banged us up a little bit, so that gave us the opportunity to get healthy. So, regardless of the fact you can always, I felt as a staff, we spoke about taking advantage of these times. We don't major in the minors. We do what's asked, and so it gave us extra time. It gave us extra time to get healthy, and this gave us some extra time to get closer as a football team.
Yeah, your thoughts on the way that the team has played. Again, you talk about, I mean, look, you had to, the Norfolk State game was a good game. South Carolina State game, you came from behind to win, sort of that game. And then, of course, speaking about your last game in the victory over Alabama State, just speak to how you think in two FBS games, what a Power 5 game sandwich in between. Speak to how your team has played so far this season.
Well, I thought we done a heck of a job of persevering. I had an opportunity to joke with a little bit with the media, last week when I talked about I'm really anxious to see how we would play if we were ahead. And then we go into Alabama State, and we go down on our second drive, and it's 7-0. But we've learned a lot about our team. Our team learned a lot about our coaches, right? Having the ability to adjust, having the ability to go into a halftime setting and speak about what we want to do, moving forward for the rest of the football game. So our players, built trust with our players and vice versa with our coaches, being able to execute whatever plan we may have, right? So, we played a Norfolk State team that we had a brand new offensive coordinator. So we were kind of guessing on maybe what they would call, right? And then, made a few adjustments at halftime. Then we played South Carolina State team, that again, new staff, not necessarily going into maybe truly understanding what they may do and what they may call, right? So, we had the Benedict film, but, ultimately they came out and did some different things, right? So, we got behind, being able to overcome adversity, being able to persevere, being able just to go in there and, say, this is how we're going to make our changes. All of the things that we preached during the spring, all the things that we preached during the summer came to fruition because, we were able to execute in times that we needed to make sure that we executed. So, excited about it. Obviously, you play University of Miami. We're all watching on how good they are, right? I personally feel, we could have finished better against Troy, and obviously getting a chance to go into Alabama State, rough place, going in there for their homecoming, playing in front of almost 35,000 fans. We got a true opportunity to see what this team is like, and then now obviously next week getting a chance to go to Jackson State, another opportunity to show what this team is made of.
James Colzie, again, in his first season, and he is the head football coach at Florida A&M. He joins us here on Box to Row. What are you? This is not your first time that you've been a head coach, right? But what are you learning about yourself 5 games into the season as the head football coach at Florida A&M?
Well, my first I was, as you mentioned, I was a head coach in Canada at at St. Mary's University, Division I school in Canada. I wore a lot of hats. I was a defensive coordinator. I was a defensive back coach. I had to worry about the corners. I had to worry about housing. I had to worry about all of those things. And I think I took a stranglehold on a lot of different things. Now as the head coach here at Florida A&M, obviously our staff being a lot bigger. Just being able to allow my coordinators to coach. Giving things that I want, and our coordinators doing a great job making sure that they get those things that I want. But just allowing my coach to coach, allowing my coordinators to be coordinators, and then everybody in our support staff, just allowing them the opportunity to excel in exactly what I hired them for.
Can you speak to your coaching staff? And one of the things, I had a chance to come down in April and present the national championship trophy, the HBCU national championship trophy, to you and the Rattlers. But one of the gentlemen I'd never met in person that I got a chance to talk to who's on your staff is Doc Gamble. Now, he's been on this program many times when he was the head coach at Arkansas Pine Bluff. Speak to him. You've got a number of former head coaches, James Spady, et cetera, that are on your staff also.
Well, you get a chance to, when we were going through the transition and things of that nature, obviously winning a national championship with this staff, obviously with Coach Simmons at the helm, and I think the biggest thing for me was making sure our guys wasn't going to have to go through multiple changes in philosophies, right? So, we kept a lot of the things that we did on offense. We kept a lot of the things that we did defensively. Obviously Doc Gamble being a head football coach at another SWAC university just gave me the opportunity to lean on certain guys on staff. Obviously, Coach Spady, another guy who's been a head coach, at a SWAC university. So, given using that experience, I maybe at the other institution, I thought I might have known everything. We're here. I don't think I have to know everything. I have an opportunity to lean on Doc Gamble, opportunity to lean on Joe Henry, opportunity to lean on Milton Patterson. Obviously, all three, those three guys being coordinators of my staff, bouncing things off of certain people on my staff that I feel may have the experience or may have the correct answers to my questions, but I'm allowing my staff to be exactly who I hired them to be. So getting a chance to learn from them as well, right? Learning from their different experiences that they may have had at previous institutions.
Your quarterback, Daniel Richardson, he's playing as well as any other player in a quarterback in the SWAC. You look at the numbers, they're really, really solid. Speak to how he's played so far this season.
Well, I think, the biggest thing for him is he's his toughest critic as well. You got a guy who's spent at two different universities. He's thrown for 7,000 yards. He's been in some hostile environments. He's a guy that went through a really, really tough quarterback competition because it wasn't a position that we gave him, but he had to go through the process, right? So, he's a guy that, you feel really, really comfortable taking on the road, right, in hostile environments. A guy that you feel is going to execute the plan to the best of his ability, and that's a plus for us, right? Then you go down the line. You talk about our veteran offensive line. You look at our veteran core of receivers. So he's a guy that steps to the huddle. He receives immediate respect from the football team, and primarily not just because of what he's done at previous institutions, but how he's carried himself on and off campus and throughout the locker room.
And you're a defensive guy. You play, and I want to talk more about that. You played college football at Florida State under the legendary Bobby Bowden. Your thoughts on the way the defense has played as a whole?
Well, we've had to make adjustments, right? You look at our team over the last couple of years, right? We've always had that dominant defensive end, or even two dominant defensive ends right now. So we've kind of had to make some adjustments on how we play. We're a little bit more gap sound, we feel, and then obviously, we lost. The list goes on and on of all conference players that we lost, right? You mentioned General Hunt, Anthony Dunn, Isaiah Land, obviously a couple years ago, Kamari Stevens a couple years ago, Isaiah Major, Johnny Chaney, right? Dank Smith. Guys that hung their hat on what we did defensively, and then we had to incorporate some of the newer guys that have been to the fold. So each week we've improved at one specific area. This past week it was third down, making sure we got off the field. We were able to create a couple turnovers, but I just think going from game 1 to game 5, right? We've been able to adjust. Our guys are understanding what we're asking them to do, schematically wise and philosophical. So again, new names, right? But each week we've improved, and we're gonna need to be at our best next week.
A couple of more thoughts with James Colzie, the head football coach at Florida A&M, and we appreciate the time. to the point, you mentioned you're sort of out recruiting now. I mean, Florida's has been hit, and we pray for all of those, in
Absolutely.
the that are in the path of the hurricane. But sort of, these 3 bye weeks, I would say, or 3 weeks off during the course of the season allows you to do some other things, including recruiting.
Well, yeah, I mean, this would have been a week that we would have been out on the road regardless. And as you mentioned, definitely want to make sure we give prayers and wishes for anybody who's been affected, not just by this hurricane, but the one that we had 7 to 10 days ago. But I think for us, it's given us as a team. The week before, our first bye week, we really wanted to concentrate on getting healthy. We were banged up, right? So then we go through Alabama A&M, not necessarily a week of a bye week that we were expecting, but again, that bye week was, we knew we weren't going to practice. Obviously, our university made the proper announcement to close our university, and so again, another opportunity just for us to just kind of harp on some of the details that we needed to harp on, whether it was offensively, defensively, and special teams. Now, this past week, again, 2 hard practices dedicated to everything in regards to Jackson State, but concentrating on our penalties, making sure we're making the right decisions, being disciplined. Offensively, really concentrating on making sure we're valuing the football like we need to, right? So, just every week that we've had that opportunity to harp on certain things, I thought we've done a great job of being able to do that, not just from my standpoint, but from my entire football staff.
And then again, playing for going back to your college days as an all-conference player, as a matter of fact, at Florida State, playing for the legendary Bobby Bowden, winning a national championship. What do you remember most about those days, in particular, Coach Bowden?
Well, I would say this, during those times, if you were a starter at Florida State, you kind of made all conference. So I'm not going to say that about my play. I mean, we were a very, very good football team, and the ACC felt if you were good enough to start at Florida State, more than likely you were good enough to be all conference. But I think at Coach Bowden instilled the discipline, the want to, that come to work every day attitude that I continue to stress to my players. Me as a player. My backup was Samari Rowe, a guy that spent double-digit years in the NFL. So I knew every single day that if I came in and didn't work hard, then Samari Rowe was going to be right behind me, waiting to make plays, right? And then backing up Samari Rowe was a guy by the name of Tate Cody, who was also a draft pick for the San Diego Chargers. So you come in and you have the opportunity to make sure every day you come in and do the things that are necessary to be successful at, whether it's Florida State, whether it's Florida A&M, whether it's any university that you attend, right? So every day coming into work, making sure you're doing what's needed to be successful. But Coach Bowden just having the opportunity to play for him, and then coming back having an opportunity to be a grad assistant for him. Learned a lot from one of the best coaches in the history of college football. But he made sure that whether it was as a player, as a coach, to make sure I came in every single day wanting and making sure I did everything I needed to do to be successful.
And then it must feel like sort of a homecoming of sorts, right? I guess 4 years, I guess, at Florida State, and now you're the head coach at Florida A&M.
Well, this is my third stint in Tallahassee. Technically my second home, for some people would say, but this is my 10th year, right? I know being 10 years in Tallahassee, I obviously understand the city, understanding the amazing talent that comes with the city of Leon County. And, it was, I was blessed. I've been blessed with this opportunity, to be the 19th head football coach at this prestigious university. I don't take this responsibility lightly. Having that chance to go in there every single day, knowing that I have one of the best jobs in college football.
Again, Florida A&M is off this week, but the Rattlers going to be on the road next Saturday at Jackson State. That's going to be a big-time football game. James Colzie, in his first season as the head football coach of the Rattlers, joining us here on Box to Row. Coach Colzie, really appreciate the time. Continued success to you and the Rattlers.
Hey, thank you very, very much. Extremely excited. The ESPN News picking up the football game. It's going to be a big-time environment. Hopefully we put a pretty good game plan together to make sure we're ready to play Jackson State next week.
Absolutely.